All right, class. First off, as always, good day. I'm glad you're here. So today we're starting a new section. This is the pre-World War II. Okay, so this is things that are happening before World War II officially happens. So we're going to be talking about one of the main people, the main architects of World War II, and that's Hitler. Okay, so we're going to look at basically how he became basically the Fuhrer. Okay, and I want you to keep in mind as we're going through this lesson the little things that he's doing to basically like set up a chessboard. You think of it like a chessboard. He's setting these pieces up, and once he's ready, boom, 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 boom. You know, it's checkmate. Okay. So, all right. So before we begin, I just want to say this. This is going to be a long lesson. Okay. Um, this was a long lesson in class. It's going to be a long lesson in the video, so I do apologize. But again, this is everything that about him that from when he was a kid till how he becomes Fuhrer, and everything in between is very important because it plays a vital role. Okay, so here's your warm up picture. So as you see, it's a picture of him. What I want you to do is think of three words. You don't have to write down a whole sentence, just three words. What pops in your head when you see his face? So when you look at this picture of him, what three words pop in your head? So hopefully you've heard of him by now in your life. So use some prior knowledge to help you out if you're kind of stumped on like, I don't know. Just again, use some prior knowledge, stuff you learned back in like the eighth grade, seventh grade, Um, okay, but what three words automatically pop in your head when you see his face? Okay, so think about it. Pause the video. Write your response because we're moving on in three, two, one. All right, so Adolf Hitler was born on April 20th, 1889. And this little inn, which is basically like a little like hotel type of thing, and a small town near the Austrian-German border. Okay. Um, Now the thing is, Hitler's dad was a custom official. Basically, he was going through boats, making sure things that were coming into the country were legit, legal, that the taxes were paid on it, and stuff like that. Now the thing is, Hitler didn't want to be like his dad. He didn't want that type of job, you know. Um, but the thing is, while he was going to school, he struggled. He struggled quite a bit in school, and he eventually dropped out when he got to secondary school. So that's like high school level. Okay, he basically dropped out, in this and that. A student said in class, you could tell in that picture that he was mean and evil. It's like maybe, you know, it's up to your interpretation, but he does kind of look kind of upset. Now his father, I'm gonna kill this name, Alos, if I remember pronounce it right. He died in 1903 from a pulmonary infusion. Basically, the water from his body, basically filled up his lungs, and he basically drowned in the water from his own body. Now, Hitler, believe it or not, really had a passion and a joy in becoming an artist. He liked to paint. And so he wanted to become a painter, a legitimate painter. But the thing is, there was a school he wanted to go to called the Vienna Academy of Fine Arts. And this is what probably one of like the most prestigious schools at that time for artists, and musicians and people like that. So he submitted his artwork and they were like, yeah, no, you're not right, kid. You know, maybe try later on. You know. So then 5 years after his dad dies, his mom dies from breast cancer. Okay. Now it's that same year Hitler basically says, you know what? I'm going to go to Vienna, and he tries to kind of like get accepted to that school, trying to show people like what he can do, what kind of artwork. And again, he's not accepted to that school. So he ends up selling scenery, painting sceneries and monuments, and making a living like that. You know. So it's kind of tough for him. Now, thing is, he's all alone in Vienna. Okay. And then he starts to become interested in politics and how things are ran and why things are bad and stuff like that. So he starts thinking, I think the reason why things are so bad in this country, why the money system's like this, why this thing is like this, why it's not efficient. This is the beginning part of his Nazi ideology. He starts getting thoughts and ideas, at a young age. And basically it deals with the Nazi stuff. So he's like 19, almost 20 years old when he starts thinking about this stuff. Okay. So I was actually able to find paintings by Hitler that he did. So here's a couple of them. Some students in the class were like, "Wow, that's actually pretty good." Yeah, to me too. That's pretty good. But apparently to the school, they were like, "Yeah, no, you know." But you know, I think they're pretty nice. You know, got to give credit where credit is due, and I can't paint like that. Now, in 1913, he moves from Vienna to Munich, Germany. Okay. Now, this is around the same time too when World War One is about to break out, and he petitioned the Bavarian king to allow him to fight. And they're like, "Well, you're not a citizen of our country." He's like, "I know, but I still want to fight for you guys." And they're like, "Well, okay, fine. If you want to volunteer, we'll put you with the reserve infantry." Okay. He's like, "Yeah, sure, whatever you guys want." So he goes into battle October 1914 and he serves the entire war. Okay. So that's one thing. He served the entire of World War One. He won two medals, two decorations for bravery. One of these awards that he got was called the Iron Cross. Um, Iron Cross First Class. Sorry about that. And the thing is, what made this medal special was that he wore it with him up until the day he died. And I'm going to say like 90 some percent of the pictures of him, you'll see him wearing it. So, like in this picture, you can see it on his like little chest area, that little cross. He always wore that medal. He was very proud of it. So during the war, he was wounded twice. He was once shot in the leg at the Battle of Somme, and during the Battle of Ypres, when they were using the mustard gas, the wind actually blew the mustard gas back at the Germans, and Hitler got like a little bit of it, and it blinded him temporarily. Okay. And here's the thing, this stuff was so bad. And remember, Hitler experienced this mustard gas that during World War II, he never used it. So if Hitler says that something is bad, that thing is bad. Okay. Now, thing is, like I said, Hitler serves the entire army. So when Germany asked for the armistice, basically surrendering, he is livid. He is so upset. He's just furious. And basically, him and a lot of soldiers, German soldiers, felt like we didn't lose the war. It was our leaders, the quote unquote patriotic leaders, who surrendered. We, the soldiers, could have kept fighting. We could have kept, the war could have kept going. We could have won, but our leaders surrendered. Now, could they have really won? Maybe they could have fought another couple months, but they wouldn't have won. They really wouldn't, because at that time when the Germany surrendered, they were the only ones fighting. Austria-Hungary quit, the Ottoman Empire quit, and the Americans were still fighting. They just came in there fresh soldiers. Britain and France got a second win. Same thing with Belgium and some of that. So yeah, probably wouldn't have won, but in their minds, we could have won. Now, in late 1918, Hitler returns to Munich and he joins a small political group called the German Worker Parties. Now, their goal was to unite the interests of the working class with a strong German nationalism, mentality. And nationalism is basically when you believe, hey, we're in the United States, we're the number one in everything. Nobody is number one in anything else but us. It's that mentality, that thought process. That's basically nationalism. when you think your country is better, smarter, stronger than everyone else. There's nothing any other country can beat you guys in because you're the best. In reality, yeah, no. Okay. We probably are number one in several things, but not in everything. Okay. Now, it's during this time that Hitler really starts to develop his voice, because he's trying to get people to listen to him about joining the German Workers' Party and some of that. And he realizes just sitting there, start standing up there and talking, trying to get people to listen, it's not going to work, you know. So he looks and sees what does work, you know, and he realizes it's the if you talk with passion, you use your hands and just this and that, do this motion that's very dramatic, you know, people will stop at the very least look your direction, you know. So that's what he learned, and he learned to be charismatic too, make people like him, you know, at least stop and listen, even maybe ask questions or two, you know, and that public persona, that voice, that charisma just kept going, building and building every time because he kept learning. This is what people gravitate to. This is what people look at. This is what people will listen to if you do this stuff. So he climbs up the ranks, and in 1920, he leaves the army officially and takes over the Workers' Party propaganda efforts. Now, if you remember, propaganda is when you're trying to convince people to think a certain way or believe a certain thing. So he's trying to get people to believe that the German Workers' Party is the political party they should join. So basically, what he does, one of the first things he does, he says, we need to change our name. Instead of the German Workers' Party, we need to be the National Socialist German Workers' Party. A shorter name for that, Nazis. Okay. Now, they have the name, a new name. Now they need a symbol because everything you think of that people remember has symbols. McDonald's, golden arches. Nike, the swoosh. You know, people remember if they remember a name, they'll associate a symbol with that name, and then people remember it. So they adopted this symbol, this very ancient symbol. It's actually a Tibetan symbol called the Hakenkreuz, or the hooked cross, as its emblem. So you see that picture right there of like Buddha with the swastika type of thing, the hook and cross. They took that and they basically turned it and said, that's our symbol now. The thing is, it's now become synonymous with Nazis that when people see statues like that, they're thinking, oh, they're evil. Oh, that thing is uh, celebrating Hitler. Guys, that symbol has been around thousands of years before the Nazis. The Nazis took that symbol and made it their own, and now that's all people, when they see that, that's all people think about is Nazis. When really it's like I believe it's like a good luck symbol, you know, if I remember right. Can't be completely remember 100% what it was, but I think it's like that. Okay. So remember, Hitler, just like a lot of German soldiers, were upset, and Hitler used that to his advantage, telling these guys, "You should join the Nazis." I was a soldier like you. We could have won. Yeah, yeah, you're right. And this guy named Ernest Röhm joins this party, and he's like, "Hey, I got this idea that we could do." And basically, he recruited these really strong army squads, right? And they were called, I'm not going to pronounce that in German, Strombertillung, I guess. But how you say it in English is Storm Division, the SA. These guys were basically the muscle of the Nazi political party group. They protected the speakers and they're in the meetings. They made sure nobody got, start attacking. Um, but they would attack other political groups who said stuff about the Nazis. They would go through their place and like tear up the place and beat up people and things like that. Now, in November 8th, 1923, members of the SA forced their way into a large beer hall. And this is where another group, kind of like the Nazis, were there, and they're discussing political things and some of that. Hitler shows up with his group with a gun in his hand, and he basically tells these guys, "You guys are just like us. You think the same thing as us. We should join together and start a national revolution." So remember, these guys are in the beer hall. They're probably drinking and things like that. And they're like, "Yeah, yeah, you're right." So they decide to basically march to the center of Munich and basically try to take over the town and eventually take over the country. So they march to the center of Munich, and it just so happens the police are there. They hear what's happening, they hear all this stuff. So they're like, okay, you guys want to come? Come. And they're basically met up on the street, and then somebody shoots a gun. And right away, the cops take out their guns, start shooting. The Nazi guys and the other political groups start shooting. Hitler, instead of being there like, I'm going to be with my men shooting, he he takes off. He hides. He runs. Right. Um. Thing is, later on, the cops they're like, okay, yeah, I saw this guy. I saw this guy. I know where this guy lives, and they basically arrest all the leaders. Okay. So the whole revolution, national revolution thing, it didn't even start. And thing is, though, word spread about this. Now, the news mentioned him in the newspapers, saying he basically established himself as a national figure, like, oh yes, I'm the great Hitler, things like that. I'm the one who thought of this stuff, and right. So some people who believe the same thing as Hitler saw him as a national hero, where other people were like, this dude's a loon. This guy's trying to start a revolution, stuff like that. So but to Hitler's people, or people who thought like him, he's a hero. So he goes to court. He's found guilty of treason, and he is supposed to serve 5 years in jail. Well, he only serves 9 months. Okay. But during his 9 months in jail, he starts writing a book called Mein Kampf, which is translates into My Struggle. And the thing is, in this book, he talks about nationalism, how the Germans are the chosen people, and how all these problems in the world are because of Jewish people. So there's a lot of anti-Semitic messages and views in that book, and again, remember, he started developing these ideas when he was like 19, 20 years old, when he was in the streets of Vienna. And he basically laid out his plans for Germany and basically how the world should be and how it would look like if people followed his plan and listened to what he has to say. Um, and basically how he would do it if he came to power, you know. Now, while he was in prison, like I said, he started writing it. He didn't finish it until he got out of prison. And when it first got published in 1925, it did okay. I mean, it wasn't like a bestseller, you know. But by the time he became the chancellor, which we'll talk about later, it became one of the best selling books in Germany. The only book that beat it was the Bible. Okay. And in 1940 alone, it sold 6 million copies in Germany. Okay. So, yeah, it was basically like a required reading in a sense in Germany. So, one of the things that Hitler was very obsessed about was race and ethnic purity. And he kept saying that the Aryan race was the purest, strongest, smartest, fastest people. And that's what he told these German people. You, the blonde hair, blue eyed people, are the perfect people. You are the smartest, the greatest, the most wonderful. And he basically tried to had people like doctors and scientists prove that the Aryan race, the blonde hair, blue eyed people, were like God's creation, and like, they're basically like the perfect people. Um, yeah, no. Here's the thing: Aryan, in historical tense, it's not a race of people. It's actually a language that was spoken by different groups. Okay. But for him to say that's an Aryan race, yeah, there wasn't really a race. Okay. Now, in his book, he addresses the need for living spaces and suggests that Germany should start taking over lands, especially in the East, that he felt were like they're inferior. The people of these Slavic states, Austria, Czechoslovakia, Poland, Russia, you know, Bulgaria, Montenegro, all these places, these people are below you. You know, you should be living nice and beautiful because you're the chosen people. These are people less than you. They deserve less. So as years start going on, you know, and this stuff being told to these people, um, it starts get in their head, you know. So for the most part, during the mid 1920s, Hitler kind of lays low a little bit. Okay, and what he's doing is basically reorganizing and reshaping the Nazi Party. And then what he does is creates this thing called the Hitler Youth, and it's to organize kids and create this special group called the SS. Okay, and these kids are basically in a sense brainwashed since they were little. Like this, everything that's good, the Aryan people, and this guy Hitler is the smartest guy. This guy is your leader. This guy is amazing. So imagine hearing that since you're 6 years old up until you're 18. You know, and yeah, members of the SS wore these black uniforms, and they had to swear a personal oath to Hitler. you know. And this was the oath. Let me move this little TV little video thing right here. And this is the oath they would have to say, like basically every day, like you're seeing in that picture right there. I swear by God, this holy oath that I want to ever loyally and sincerely serve my people and fatherland, and be prepared as a brave and obedient soldier to risk my life for this oath at any time. Okay. That's the thing they had to say, like basically every day, like the Pledge of Allegiance. Now, under this guy named Heinrich Himmler, the SS would grow from like 200 guys into this most dominant, scary force in World War II, and they would terrorize people. When people saw these guys come in that black outfit with the black hat with the little SS on their uniform, um, they knew to run, hide. Don't step up to them because it's not just going to be one person; it's going to be a bunch, and they had no problem killing people. So in 1932, Hitler decides to run for president of Germany. Thing is, he's running against this war hero from World War One named Paul von Hindenburg. Thing is, Hitler loses, but he gets 36.8% of the total votes in Germany. That's nothing to sneeze at, guys. That's a pretty good chunk. All right. So 36.8% of the German people wanted Hitler. Now, remember, this is 1932. So the Great Depression is already going on. Things are chaotic. People are hungry, they're starving, they can't find jobs and things like that. People are homeless in the streets. Kids are picking up trash, eating food from the trash cans because they have nothing to eat. And this president appoints a chancellor. Okay, a chancellor is the person who's basically running the country. The president is again the president, but the chancellor is like the main person in charge doing things inside the country. Um, Three guys quit in about a year, you know, because they could not maintain the chaos. They could not get people to calm down. They could not get people to listen to what um, the chancellors are trying to say to do to make the country better. So in late 1933, January 1933, I should say, Hindenburg tells Hitler, because remember, he's like, hey, you got 36.8% of the country to listen to you and vote for you. Why don't you become my chancellor? So Hitler, at 43 years old, goes, I'll give it a shot. So on January 30th, 1933, he basically announces the birth of the Third Reich. Okay. Reich in German is like empire. Okay. And basically boasts to the world that this empire will last for a millennium. For those of you guys who don't know, a millennium is 1,000 years. Okay. And Hitler basically grabs absolute power, basically because all these other political groups are fighting against one another, things like that. And those people who are going against them, they're sitting on their hands. They don't know what to do because again, the Great Depression is causing a lot of problems, a lot of issues. That all they can do is bicker at each other and nothing's getting done. So he's basically like, okay, well, I'm going to get all this power for myself, make my position more powerful. Now, the German parliament, the parliament is where the government basically gets together, senators, congressmen, people like that. Okay. And the German parliament actually caught on fire in February 1933. And Hitler basically announces to everyone, look, look, they're trying to kill us because we're the Nazis. We're trying to do this. We're trying to help people. And because these guys don't like us, they're trying to kill us. You know, and he uses this as an excuse to basically go against his political opponents. People are going against him. Here's the thing. There's a lot of evidence that proves that the people who hated Hitler, those other political groups and other people, they didn't start the fire. It was the Nazis. That yeah, the Nazis started the fire and basically try to say, oh, look at they try to kill us when they're the ones who set the fire themselves. And they just wanted an excuse so that Hitler can basically say, we're going to go after these guys because they try to kill us. So on March 23rd, 1933, the Enabling Act passes, giving Hitler full power as chancellor, and it combines the Nazi socialism and the old German establishment together. So now they're all Nazis. And then that leads to the what happened in July 1933. Because some people were like, I don't want to be a Nazi. And they're like, well, um, so what are you, non-Nazi? Yeah, I'm a non-Nazi. So then, January 1933, they pass a law stating that the Nazi Party is the only political party. You cannot be a non-Nazi. Um, so non-Nazi parties, trade unions, any other organization doesn't exist. It's all Nazis. Everyone's a Nazi. And if you didn't proclaim to be a Nazi, you weren't getting any government help at all for anything, you know. And yeah, people were basically forced to be Nazis. Now, Hitler told France and Poland, oh, because France and Poland's like, hey, Germany, you can't have an army. You guys agreed on for the World War One treaty. You won't have an army. And he goes, no, 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 no. We won't have an army. We won't be carrying weapons. We want peace. I don't know where you're getting this idea. Did anyone say anything about us having an army, having guns? No? No, right? Yeah, I don't know what you got. France, Poland, calm down, relax. We're not doing that kind of stuff. But in reality, he is. He's building an army. They're rebuilding they have factories making weapons, making tanks and things like that. So he's telling these other countries, no, 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 no. I don't know where you're getting this idea. I don't know what you're talking about, but in reality, they are. In 1934, Germany leaves the League of Nations and basically says, since we're not in League of Nations, France, Poland, you can, because we got an army now, we got military, we got weapons. What are you gonna do? That's right, nothing. There you go. And just to make sure that everything was going hunky dory for Hitler, on June 29th, 1934, this night is called the Night of Long Knives. Basically, Hitler has been creating a hit list. of all the people in his political party that are troublesome, he sees them as they could be political eventual rivals, people that who might backstab him, former SA officers who could be like, well, you know what, Hitler's doing a bad job, I should be the next person in charge. People who are ambitious and things like that. That night, almost in sequence, hundreds of men are killed. All those guys that Hitler sees as a threat, as a possible threat, could be a threat to him, he has them killed all on one night. So if you've seen The Godfather, if you see at the very, very end when Michael Corleone is having his godson baptized, and then his mafia people are like killing all these guys at one time during the baptism, that's basically what Hitler's doing. He's having all his political and potential rivals executed, killed that night. People getting stabbed, people getting shot, things like that. Now, here's the thing. April 2nd, 1934, the president of Germany, Hindenburg, dies. And the military leaders of Germany are like, well, who's going to lead us? Who's going to lead us? And they look at the chancellor, Hitler, and go, you know what? Yeah, let's combine the military, all right? Combine the presidency and the chancellorship together into one position. And that's what they do. And this makes Hitler the ultimate ruler, or as they say it in Germany, Führer. And that's how that guy, this tiny, scrawny man with a weird little mustache, becomes the dictator, the ruler of Germany. All right, guys. So that's basically it for this lesson. So hopefully you learned something new. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Again, I do apologize for the length of it, but again, everything that I discussed here, it plays a role into how Hitler became the Fuhrer. And like I said at the beginning, if you notice, he does these little things. He's putting the chess pieces together, and now he is the Fuhrer. He's the guy in charge of this whole country. Okay. So, with that being said, guys, hopefully you learned something new. Hopefully you enjoyed this. And you guys have a good day. Okay. Take care. You be safe.